Welcome to We Hope in God channel.
It's so good to be here, to just step into this quiet space with you. Today's deep dive is a bit different. We're setting aside the academic papers and really just creating a space for quiet time, for meditation.
That's right. We're letting a couple of powerful Bible verses speak for themselves. The whole mission here is to see how a very specific, short phrase in Scripture can reveal the love and grace of Jesus.
And our hope is that this meditation can be, a small light for your walk with Christ.
We're really just trying to distill a huge theological truth from just a handful of words.
And those words are two or three.
Two or three, simple, right? But this phrase is an anchor. It pops up in these vastly different contexts, but it seems to carry the same kind of spiritual weight.
Exactly. It's like the minimum requirement for both spiritual integrity and divine power.
Okay, so let's unpack that tension, because I think that's where the real insight is. We should probably start where the phrase first appears, where it's set up as this legal principle.
Right. We have to go back to the Old Testament for that.
To the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 17.
And the setting here is so important. You have Moses. He's near the end of his life, and he's delivering this final, meticulous instruction to the people about to enter the Promised Land.
So this is it. This is the bedrock for their entire community.
Their civil life, their moral life, their judicial system, everything.
And the specific law we're looking at is, well, it's incredibly serious. It's about idol worship.
The most serious breach of the covenant imaginable.
A crime that, under the law, carried the death penalty. I mean, this is literally a matter of life and death.
It is. The stakes could not be any higher. But, and this is the key, even within that severity, God immediately introduces a constraint, a restraint to protect the process from human error or, malice.
And here it is from Deuteronomy 17, verse 6. It says, "On the testimony of 2 or 3 witnesses, a person is to be put to death, but no one is to be put to death on the testimony of only one witness."
So it's right there. The integrity of the whole system, the very life of the accused, hinges on corroboration, on more than one voice.
It puts an immediate boundary on individual power, especially the power to judge.
Right. But what's so fascinating is how this strict rule for judgment, for the ultimate act of condemnation, reappears centuries later.
Yeah, it shows up again not as a legal rule, but as this boundless, gracious promise.
That's where the light really breaks through. Jesus himself echoes the same pattern, the power of 2 or 3, and he completely flips the paradigm.
He does. In Matthew 18, verse 20, Jesus says, "For where 2 or 3 gather in my name, there am I with them."
Wow. Just think about that contrast.
It's huge. Deuteronomy gives the minimum for an execution.
And Matthew gives the minimum for the embodied presence of God.
So one passage is about a life-ending judgment, the other is about a life-giving presence.
They're almost opposites, but they share that identical phrase.
So what's the connection? What is the deep truth that connects these two powerful statements about 2 or 3?
I think it raises a really essential question for us. What is it about the number one, about that solitary voice that Scripture sees as inherently dangerous when it comes to things that matter?
Let's move into that reflection, because this speaks so directly to, our world today.
Oh, absolutely.
We live in a society that just elevates the individual voice, right? The personal opinion, the solo perspective,
Yeah.
personal feelings.
And, that can be wonderful when we're praising someone or sharing a personal story. It's great. But when it turns to judgment or criticism...
That's when it becomes a danger zone.
Exactly. Why is that? Well, relying on one voice means you're just submitting to one person's limited, fallen, emotional perspective.
A single judgment can be skewed so easily.
It can. By a misunderstanding, a hidden bias, maybe an old resentment. The danger isn't just in being wrong. It's the power imbalance that gets created when one person has absolute authority to define someone else.
So the biblical answer, across both the Old and New Testaments, is just profound humility. God's people are instructed not to make these serious judgments based on one voice alone.
It's a system for shared responsibility. Decisions are meant to be made within the community through shared, careful discernment.
Which protects the accused, of course.
Yes, but it also protects the judge. It protects them from the burden and the risk of being the only one, of making a sole error.
And that procedural rule, I think that's the key that unlocks the theological truth here. God's work, it seems, isn't centered on individual greatness.
No, not at all. It's not about that one charismatic leader who stands alone and makes all the calls.
It's about humble community.
That's where truth is safeguarded, that's where power is shared, and it's where the divine presence is actually promised. The rule of 2 or 3 forces us to face our own limits.
It demands humility. It just strips away the authority of the solo star.
And that's why the promise in Matthew 18 is so radical. Jesus didn't say where the biggest church gathers or where the most famous pastor preaches.
He said, "Where 2 or 3 gather in my name." His presence is guaranteed when people come together humbly, centered only on him.
Yes, it takes that legal mechanism from Deuteronomy and turns it into this relational reality. In Deuteronomy, the innocents are protected by a communal check on judgment.
And in Matthew,
In Matthew, the small, vulnerable community is protected by the guaranteed presence of Christ. The individual impulse is contained so that a greater shared reality can emerge.
the power isn't in who is there or even how many. It's about the intention of gathering in his name.
That's the shift. It moves the power away from human performance and puts it squarely on divine presence.
So if God's law required this even in matters of, life and death, what does this mean for us today? How do we apply this?
Well, the shift is from a legal rule to a grace-filled transformation. We need to leverage the power of the 2 or 3 for life, not for death.
That means being really intentional about why we gather. It's not just about avoiding making judgments alone. It's about actively choosing not to let our gatherings become a place to criticize or tear people down. That promised presence of Christ is just too sacred for that.
Exactly. The application here is concrete action. We're called to use the power of the 2 or 3 to build each other up.
So gather to worship him. Gather to pray for one another.
Gather to lift each other up. And that requires a certain vulnerability, right? To let others in, to help confirm and refine your own path.
It really forces you to audit your relationships. When you have a hard decision, are you just going to one friend who you know will agree with you?
Or are you seeking that communal wisdom that the Bible seems to mandate? True application means submitting our isolated thoughts to the discernment of 2 or 3 faithful voices.
And the ultimate outcome of all this, the prayer really, is that you listening right now experience that palpable, guaranteed presence of God as you gather with your 2 or 3.
Yes. And the final aspiration for all of us is to be shaped by this truth, to build what you could call precious communities.
Precious communities.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah, little reflections of God's kingdom where 3 things are always happening.
Okay, what are they?
First, where grace is shared openly, generously, where there's room for mistakes and restoration, not just accusation. Second, where truth is discerned together. That collective search for truth keeps us humble and prevents those quick, one-sided judgments.
And third, this is the most important one.
It is, where his presence is clearly felt.
Yeah.
Because you're there in his name, not for your own status or authority.
The mandate of 2 or 3 really does transcend history. It goes from a strict judicial rule to the blueprint for unity and divine power.
The main lesson, I think, is that our safety, our effectiveness, our access to Christ's presence, it's not found in our isolation. It's found in the humble act of gathering with others centered on him.
So the central promise we can hold on to today is this. God is guaranteed to be present. Not because we have a huge church or because we're impressive on our own, but simply when we humbly come together, just 2 or 3 of us, in his name.
And that leads to the final thought we'd like to leave you with, something to carry forward from this deep dive.
Go for it.
How does embracing this idea of communal discernment, this intentional reliance on 2 or 3 voices, how does that change the way you make difficult decisions? How does it protect you and the people around you from the sway of personal bias and raw emotion, not just in big spiritual decisions, but in everyday life?
Thank you for sharing this quiet time reflection with us. May the light of this truth guide your steps and shape your community today. We'll catch you on the next deep dive.
One voice speaks, another hears. Truth grows clearer, free from fear. Not alone, we stand as one. Light is found where hearts are joined. Not my way, not my pride, slow our steps, walk side by side. In shared grace, our voices blend. Love and truth together stand. We lay down our own desires. Seek your will, your holy fire. When we gather, hearts made new, we look up. One voice speaks, another hears. Truth grows clearer, free from fear. Not alone, we stand as one. Light is found where hearts are joined. Not my way, not my pride. We slow our steps, walk side by side. In shared grace, our voices blend. Love and truth together stand. We lay down our own desires. Seek your will, your holy fire. When we gather, hearts made new, we look up and wait for you. Where two or three call on your name, you are here, forever the same. Where two or three lift hearts in prayer, you are here, you are